Lighting in any 3D software really is an exciting step because with just a few clicks, it breathes life into a scene, even a simple one like a simple plane and a simple cube like we'll work with today. In this video, I'm going to walk through the various light types that you can access in Blender, and we will follow up in later videos some of the finer details of each of those lights and techniques that can be used to place them properly. Here we go. I've got a default scene set up here with a simple cube. Because we're going to be using lights and we may be casting shadows and that sort of thing, my first step, I'm going to add a mesh plane to my scene, and I'm going to scale that up so that way we can have a floor of some sort to work with. I'm going to move it down so that way it's just clipping the bottom of our cube. It doesn't have to be super precise, but we want something there just so it can catch lights and catch shadows and just give us a little bit more to work with. Beyond that, let's go ahead and, I tell you what, let's add a few more objects. It's not enough just to see a cube. Maybe we add a smooth shaded sphere, or just right click, shade smooth. Maybe we add let's add a cone, why not? And just kind of make a simple still life here. So that way when we add lights, we can enjoy how they work on a variety of surfaces. And I'll add a torus, why not? I don't think we've added a torus yet in our examples, so let's put one in there. Right click, shade smooth. I'm going to pop into change my view and go into my viewpoint, camera, just to make sure those objects are in view. You can see that like this thing's clipping and that thing's clipping. And in fact, this might not be the most efficient way to do this, so I'll go back to view, or rather I can just grab this and get out of my view. I'm going to hit Control Alt and Q to go into my quad view. I do like this quad view because it gives me the ability to look at all my different objects all at once. So here I am in my quad view, and I can kind of line this stuff up decently enough, and there we go, not bad. Adding lights. So we have a default light in our scene already. Anytime you make a new Blender file, it does put the cube and the light in there. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one. I'm gonna hit delete. Now I have nothing in my scene. If I hit F12 to render, I get a very like ghostly look here. I've got a little bit of ambient, it looks like, in my world, so I can see a faint outline, but otherwise I don't get much else. Now let's add some lights here, starting with a sunlight. I'll go to Add, and then I'll scroll down to find the Light tab, and I'm going to add a sunlight. Now I start with sun because the sunlight is kind of has the least amount of tricks that you can play with it. A sunlight is referred to as an infinite light, and it does spawn right in the center. And this threw me off when I was first getting started with Blender because I see this yellow dot and I'm like, oh great, let's move the yellow dot around. But what's happening is your sun is actually in your cube, and it can be kind of frustrating just because it doesn't reveal itself really right away. So your light icons are shown by these little tiny dots with these orange beams coming out of them, and then they sometimes have these control handles. So that's what I'm grabbing here with this yellow dot, and that's the area of focus. Now these yellow dots, even though we're using the sun, it's not unique to a sun. This isn't, don't think of this as like, you know, a little sunspot there. We'll see this same little dot in control handles for other things. In fact, grabbing spotlights later will have a similar control. So at any rate, move your sun into a place that you think looks good, and then I am going to take this top right viewport, and I'm going to go to View, Viewport, Camera, and that one will turn it into camera mode, so that way I can see what my camera sees. I like the look of that pretty well. Maybe I'll bring it up just a tad so that all my things are in view, and yeah, not bad. I'm going to hit the F12 key for a render, and hooray, we've got some objects and we've got some shadows. Now they don't look fantastic right out of the box. We will follow up this video with a rendering tutorial that talks about getting some other render options optimized. But for now, at least we're seeing things lit. There are some settings in our light options. So if I grab my sun object, I find my properties panels over on the right and go down to data, I can get some sun properties, including things like color, which are easy enough to change. I can adjust the strength of my sun, which maybe a value of 10 might be a little bit more appropriate there. And I can change things like the diffuse and the specular and that sort of thing. Hitting F12 again gets me quite a different look. I'm getting some purple now because I changed my sun color to maybe a bluish purple tint. Moving right along, I'll pop back to viewport shading for now. Actually, let's go ahead and go with render preview. That way we can get a little bit more of our color into our scene. It might make the lighting rigging setup a little bit faster. So that's the sun in a nutshell. Move the object, move its focus, adjust color, strength, and so forth. You do have options for shadows. We won't get into those with this particular one, but just know that you can turn shadows on or off with each one of your lights. Next light. Add light point. A point light is a light that emits light in all directions. It's frequently referred to as an omnidirectional light or an omni. Sometimes it's referred to as candle, but that's pretty rare these days. So if you see point or omni light, you're getting the same thing. A value for a point light, maybe somewhere around 500, might be nice. And a color, let's say maybe we go with a little bit more of a warmer candle glow for this scene that we're working with. It also has control over values like diffuse, which is how it impacts the surface, specular, and volume. We won't mess with those too much. Radius is an interesting one. As you increase the radius, it is going to conduct a fall off on that point light. So when you have a radius of 0, there is no fall off, and as you increase it, it is going to kind of thin out your light in a way, soften it, and create a little bit more of a natural look. So I do eventually guide students to using the radius on point lights to give that like fall off approach, because light doesn't continue forever. But for now, we'll leave it as is. Next light. Add light spotlight. Now a spotlight, again, like these others, spawn in the middle of your scene, so you got to move it out of position in order to see what it can do. And actually, while I'm changing, I'm going to leave it right on the top here because we can see this little cone angle that it's created. I'm going to change, let's change the power first. Let's go again with a number like 500 watts. And you can see that light is painfully bright on the top of that cube. Change the color. Oh, maybe something, oh, do we need green in this scene? Why not? Something like that lime-ish green, mint green. And then we can change the size of the spotlight shape. So this is one that I do want to kind of mess around with. And that's why I have it pointed here so cleanly at the top. As I increase the size of the spotlight, that's going to increase the cone angle coming from that spotlight. So think of a spotlight like you would any theater light or maybe like a flashlight. And this is going to open up that lens area to cast a larger circle of light. Next is the blend. Now the blend is more of like a softening on the edge of the light. With no blend, you'll see your light is almost like a disc. When I render this, it's like perfectly round. And then if I increase the blend to 1, then we get a nice, soft, smooth shape at the top. Much better. Now, if I move my spotlight over to the side, and I grab that kind of yellow light spot, I can cast this greenish light at my still life, and it looks much more prominent and evident that I have that green light there. Hitting F12 once again for another render shows me a preview of my, the render, but a preview of the final look. We're still working on that. Spotlight also has some radius options, so we can still conduct fall off with this one. I don't do it as much on spotlights. I usually use that on point lights just because a spotlight is almost clear where it's coming from, whereas point lights maybe not so much. But it can come in handy in both places. Winding up this video includes adding a area light. Now an area light, I like to explain this one as like, imagine a white like LCD screen, like a television monitor that is bright white, and it lights the scene in front of you. Or like say a fluorescent light at the top of like a school classroom that has a diffuser on it. It's really like a block of light. So if we leave this one as white for now, maybe set the value to 250, it's going to cast from this square that we have up here, just white light down. And you can see how the shadows, in a way, kind of referencing that light as I move it. So as it goes further down towards my scene, you kind of see it calculate that shadow. That's coming from the cube actually, but it's kind of giving us a bit of a window into how this light operates. I can change the parameters of this light. So if I want to expand it or scale it, I can do so. So I can make it wider or thinner or what have you. But I like these lights. I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off for just a second. Turn off sun, spot, and point all in my render. So that way all I see in this one is just my area light. We hit F12 and you can see it just lights everything cleanly from the top. So putting those back on, and now we've got all of our lights working in, well, we could call it harmony, but they're kind of fighting one another. You're seeing a lot of weird angles here with the shadows and other things like that. But that's the four main lights that you'll find in Blender. The sun, which is kind of an establishing directional light. The point, which is more like candlelight, comes from a single location. The spotlight, imagine it like a theater light. And the area light, which is like a big, large, like diffuse block of light. Working with all these together is going to give you a lot of control over how your scenes look. So there you have it.